I want to say just a few words about this ongoing legal case involving Prince Harry and various newspapers. I'm not going to make this one very long because it is ongoing, but I'm just going to highlight two takes on it actually, as reported by the Eye, which I think is an interesting way to look at it. They do this thing, the opinion matrix, where they quote other newspapers. The Daily Mail. We all know Harry by now. Give our guy a public platform and it won't be long before he is complaining about his privacy. Although, to be scrupulously fair, this is a phone hacking trial and not an exercise in opinions, or is it? That's by Jamoir, I should say. The Guardian. He tried to put this fire out with petrol. Court is not the place to go with a moral case, and it's not the right precinct for dealing with feelings however profound and justified they are. In its literal-minded way, it requires a law to have been demonstrably broken, have been broken. That's Zoe Williams in The Guardian. Now, I have to say, I like Zoe Williams' take on it. I think that's a good way to put it. Um, this was the cover of The Sun the other day. Give you an idea of the traction of this story. Just hold that back. See a resemblance between me and the Duke? My mum said we look alike. Both redheads, I guess. Um, us redheads don't always stick together. I don't know, what to make of this whole thing because I'm sort of left with the feeling I'm trying not to speak too loudly because it's the early hours of the morning and I don't want to. Walls aren't that thick here. Um, I feel that Harry just keeps digging himself deeper. I feel he's in a situation where he has some degree of paranoia. I think he's very sensitive, and I think there's a sheltered aspect there because I think he's been so used to getting interviews sort of on his tune that to be cross-examined in the court of law is a totally different kettle of fish. And it was a big media event, there was press gathered outside. It's the first time in 132 years that a senior member of the royal family has appeared to give evidence in a court of law. Um, I believe the last time was the future King Edward VII, then the Prince of Wales, was involved in a libel case involving uh, betting him. I don't know all the details of that, but you have to go that far back. So it is quite significant. Harry broke with tradition by basically saying that the Sunak government and the British press have hit rock bottom. So, it was all guns blazing with this. But apparently, at several points, he broke down in tears, and it was clearly a very trying thing. 5 hours he was cross examined back and forth. Um, the mother of Caroline Flack has said he was very brave. So, there will be that contingent who thinks this is a David and Goliath situation. Then there's another side, which is that, and I would fall into this camp, which is that Harry just keeps making things more difficult for himself. I mean, I like the Guardian take, and it's very rare that I agree with the Guardian or a Guardian columnist. Sun is predictable. They are going to, of course, they're going to be anti-Harry, and I would really take their take with a pinch of salt. Although there were things that were just plain inaccurate that he alleged. For example, apparently one of them was that when he visited Princess Diana in 1996, or when she visited him for his 12th birthday party, he accused the Mirror Group of phone hacking on him. Well, it emerges that he didn't actually get his first phone until 2 years later, so that would have been impossible. Um, so he may have got that mixed up. He may be, exaggerating. But there is another side to it, which is that unquestionably, a large segment of the British press were involved in phone hacking. I mean, this all came out in 2011. So for the Sun to be very smug about this, or the Mirror, or any of the tabloids, is a little bit rich because it's undeniable that they did hack into public figures' phones. members of the royal family, celebrities, and I do think there's an aspect of the British press that is utterly rotten and vindictive. But what Zoe Williams said in The Guardian is fundamentally true. No matter how strongly you feel, in a court of law, the only thing that matters is evidence and facts. So, feeling that the press is nasty isn't good enough, unfortunately. Harry, I mean, uh, they may be nasty, but that's not evidence in of itself. Um, I also feel that I don't know if it's his PR people or what, but I feel that he is utterly oblivious to how he's coming across to the public because I think the majority of people see him as a very entitled guy who just wants the best of both worlds. He wants to keep the titles, he wants everything on his terms, but then when he faces scrutiny, it's he's a victim. Um, one mistake I think he's made is projecting this image of he is basically Princess Diana Mark II, in the sense that he is projecting what his mother went through onto him. Like he's sort of saying, well, this is just exactly what my mother went through. So he's using that sort of emotional pitch. But actually, things have changed since Diana's death. For example, in the UK, um, the the limits on the paparazzi are actually significantly more than the United States, France, Italy, and even the tabloid very rarely print full-on paparazzi photos. That doesn't mean that their behaviour isn't sometimes despicable. I have no interest in going out of my way to defend the Sun, the Mirror, or any of those tabloids, but Harry can't have it both ways. He can't give interviews and demand interviews when it suits him, but then say he wants privacy. Even people sympathetic to him, even those who feel that he probably has had press harassment. I mean, for example, he cited the behaviour of the press as one reason why his relationship with Chelsea Davy broke down. This was, of course, his girlfriend in the late 2000s. He said that the pressure was too much and she couldn't face royal life, which is understandable. Um, so he makes points like that, but then this looks like an agenda. You want to what is the outcome of this? If it's to sort of hold these papers to account, fine, but his legal team will need to be absolutely sure that they do have solid evidence, and so far his case seems to be falling apart. And it's almost like I actually feel I would describe it this way. I think Harry is a victim of himself. I think that he just keeps digging deeper into this, and it's a vicious cycle. The more digs into this, the more the tabloids will be defensive, and the more they'll be tempted to say Harry the hypocrite, Harry the entitled prince, and then he'll get more paranoid, and it's a vicious cycle. But I think he runs a risk of losing public sympathy, any sympathy there may be out there. The more he pushes this sort of PR, the more for example, apparently there's not going to be any more parts to spare. Well, I think that was a big mistake in the first place. I think when you start airing dirty laundry about private family matters, even if you are part of the most famous family in the world, it just looked vindictive and petty, and I just think no one wins. No one wins from that. Now, having said all of that, so yeah, basically, I don't think the way he has went about this has been particularly smart, and I think it does look hypocritical. It does look like he wants the most of both worlds, to have all these demands that he's making, yet to keep the titles and to get everything that he's requesting. It's just I think Harry needs to decide if he really wants to step away from public life, then he has to do it and stop constantly pushing this narrative of. I mean, apparently he insisted on being referred to as Prince Harry. What does he want? I mean, he has chosen, as the King said in his speech, after the Queen's passing, he said, we love Harry and Meghan. We wish them the best as they go in their own way. That's not verbatim, but it's along those lines. Um, I think people just say, well, wait a second, you want to step away from public life, but you're never out of the press. And some of this may be that, some of the tabloids realise that there is a story in pointing out to Harry the hypocrite. But I don't think he's doing himself any favours. I really don't. I think he just needs to step away from the whole damn thing. And I don't think that the British press would be continuously reporting on this if he wasn't fueling them. Now, the American press is a different matter. This situation in New York, I made a video about it, the paparazzi chase. I think the paparazzi are completely despicable. That's American paparazzi. That's got nothing to do with the British press. Um, so I just think there's a lot of conflation going on. Um, anyway, it just shows that, getting over there didn't give him the sort of life he wanted. Um, I don't know. I mean, they have to decide what they want to do, both Harry and Meghan. Do they want to keep making these public appearances yet saying that they want privacy? It's just utterly contradictory. But the other side of it is, and I'll close with this, technically what the Sun and other papers are arguing may be true, that some of the things don't add up. The claim about James Stewart, for example, actually I didn't mention that earlier in the video. Harry alleged that the papers made this up and apparently it wasn't. That James Stewart was his real biological father. But regardless, I do think that there is quite a nasty side to the tabloids, and I do think at times it's been quite mean spirited. I mean, it's all very well saying, okay, with the royal wedding in 2018, they were, cheering for Harry, and they were, but you just have to look at the history of the tabloid press. There has been a pretty rotten aspect to them. Even if they're technically right on this occasion, phone hacking was only 12 years ago. The whole News International scandal, and that wasn't, hot air. There was definitely a lot of wrongdoing involved in that. So for the Sun and the Mirror to just say, "Oh, we're totally innocent," is a little bit laughable. I think there has been times they've been quite vindictive, and I remember in the late 2000s the way they reported, his relationship with Chelsea Davy was utterly sensationalist, and I wouldn't at all be surprised if it put pressure on her to step away from the idea of royal life. The scrutiny is one thing for a potential royal bride. But when it gets to the point of just vindictive, nasty ad hominems, I do think there's quite a nasty side to the tabloids, and I think so I take a very dim view, I should say, of them playing the victim. But I do think Harris went about this the wrong way. Um, I think for his own sake, he needs to give himself a break, step away from all of this. But now it emerges that this came before this whole trial, that his American immigration paperwork may be in question because he hadn't disclosed that he once used marijuana. Um, Americans take that sort of thing pretty seriously. I think Harry's a victim of himself. Um, I don't think everything he says is factually wrong, and I think there is definitely something in it. I also think he is utterly oblivious to how he comes across, titled as contradictory. And I think whoever is his PR people they need to stop putting him in a bubble and they need to tell him reality. If you want the life that you want, if you want to step away from public life, do it. Do it. Don't send out these mixed messages because it's hypocritical and it also will fuel this constant media cycle. Um, I think there have been times the press have been very unfair and cruel, not just to Harry, but to lots of public figures. But the other side of it is, public figures like Prince Harry and celebrities, I make this point about singers, actors, they can't have it both ways. If you're in public life, you have to accept that a degree of scrutiny will come with that. And if you're displaying double standards, that is going to be scrutinized. I think his mental health probably is fragile, but I think a lot of that is his own making. Um, because it's like he just keeps digging deeper. I think he needs to give himself a break. Let me know your thoughts.